Welcome back to Just a Tip, the podcast where we talk about the shit that everyone is thinking, but no one wants to say. Today we have Adam Gersten, the guy behind Gramps. Yeah, that Gramps. The OG Wynwood spot that's been equal parts dive bar, drag stage, concert hall, comedy club, and my neighborhood living room for over a decade. Now, he's closing Gramps on his own terms. No landlord drama, no eviction, just a guy that's deciding when to wrap up an era. And if you know Miami nightlife, that is damn near unheard of. In today's episode, we're talking about how important this mayoral election is to your business, Wynwood's many evolutions through the years and where it's heading, when off-season really is in Miami, and how to adapt your business to survive, and what he sees next for Wynwood, Miami nightlife, and future locations. So let's get into it. Adam Gersten, Gramps, Wynwood, and what it means to go out on top. This episode of Just a Tip is brought to you by Rooftop Solutions. So the craziest thing happened. You might have even seen it in the news. A restaurant in Wynwood had to shut down for years after a leaky roof caved in. Imagine all that money, time, momentum gone just because the roof wasn't handled right. And that's why I always recommend Rooftop Solutions. They've been protecting homes and businesses all over Miami-Dade and Broward for over 20 years. They're local, based in Hialeah, and they take pride doing the job with honesty and craftsmanship so your roof stands the test of time. And here's the deal. If you got a leak, they will patch it for free while prepping your roof to be replaced. So unless you want to add a lazy river in your dining room, call Rooftop Solutions, tell them Felix sent you. Welcome back to another episode of Just a Tip. Today, I am super fortunate enough to be joined by a living legend, an icon in the community, the one, the only, Adam Gersten.
Oh, yeah.
That's you.
Right. Wow, you said it right. That's great.
I mean, it's
beautiful.
Always. If you don't know who Adam is, he is responsible for some legendary concepts like Gramps and Wynwood, Gramps by the Sea, Pizza Tropical, still one of my favorite pizza places of all time. What else we got?
Well, there's more in that.
Oh, we got Double Luck. We got Double Luck. You're a partner in Double Luck.
I'm a partner there.
You're a partner in Double Luck, which we did recently run into each other.
Yeah, we did.
If you may or may not have remembered, that was the restaurant that I just happened to be at having drinks and dinner with my wife when the restaurant got raided by a full-on SWAT team, thanks to the wonderful city of Miami. And I know that I actually got you on camera. I remember when the cops were breaking balls.
Trying to manage the situation.
Which we'll talk about that whole situation. But I know that me and you have really, since then, have spent a lot of time together.
Sure.
And I might have gone off the rails when I found out you were closing Wynwood and did another video for another reason for the Wynwood bid to hate me.
Oh, yeah.
But dude, thank you so much for coming on.
We can also talk about that. Yeah, sure.
But right out the gate, I think something really important for everybody to know is that the mayoral elections are going on right now. And I'm a big advocate, and I know you're the grand poobah advocate of, the community being involved in voting.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. No, I mean, to me, it really does not matter what your politics are, right? And I think especially, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, which, I don't love the title. I think I do other things, and, I'm maybe more focused on a creative point of view in that world. But no matter what it is, your municipal elections affect your life.
Right.
Immediately, right? And so although people may impose their view of what my aim is with being involved in advocacy and things like that, the main thing for me is to be politically engaged in your municipal elections. Whatever you want the outcome to be, you need to register to vote, and you need to actually vote, which means you need to know when the last day to register is. You need to know your status as a registered voter, and you need to know when the elections are held, right? And that, I think this year, a lot of people learned a lot of things they didn't know about our elections, which is great, right? The more people that know, the better. But I will say that still, people that I talk to that ask me questions or what do you think and this and that, I'm like, okay, we can talk about that, but did you register? Or did you vote last? Yeah. Or I saw you posting all this stuff, but did you vote? No, actually, I found out at the end that I wasn't registered. It's like, okay, save it, right? Before you hit, post on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, or say something, online or to your friends or in a chat, register and make sure you know where to vote, when to vote, and who's running, right?
Because we are going to get what we voted for.
We're going to get what we voted for. I actually, I know that Billy Corbin often is reminding us we get the government we deserve, in a way chastising. But I do think it's true, because if you don't, that's something we actually agree on, is that you've got to vote, right? In municipal elections.
You know what?
And wait, sorry, but on that point,
yep,
very important for this year. There's going to be a runoff. Okay, what that means is, there's going to be 2 people running again after November in December. I think it's the week of Basel. So, or even if it's not the week, it's the week after.
That's insane. How do they even do that?
So the traffic is going to be crazy. You're going to have every excuse not to vote for the mayor of your city, because you'll be, I voted in November. I thought it was over. This year, there's going to be an election in November, and then there's going to be a runoff, and that runoff will be at a very inconvenient time in December. So today, figure out your registration. Make sure you're registered. You have 29 days before the November election is the cutoff. So you've got another week-ish to register or check and make sure you're registered. So that's the most, if we're going to take anything away today, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Right. If we're going to take anything away, is that you need to register to vote today, Monday or Tuesday, whatever. That's basically it. And then you're going to vote in November, but that doesn't matter as much as then knowing what day the runoff is in December, so that you actually are participating in electing who the mayor of the city is going to be, and the mayor of the city then selects the city manager, and the city manager runs the police, the fire department, the code, the building department. So if you have complaints about the way anything in the city is run, it comes down to who's selecting the city manager and how the city manager just, is allowed to, or chooses, depending on what type of personality they have.
So yeah, that question that you just asked is, you don't know what we're going to talk about. Oh, this whole interview, I'm going to make you embarrassed and blush the entire time. Because I really do have so much admiration and respect for you. Because I've been, we've done work together, and, we've
you got me
done things in passing.
You got me into a lease.
That's right.
You got me into
That's still the greatest.
With the world famous Alex Dowd, former mayor
of Miami Beach,
and R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. I'm chasing my half of my commission into the ground.
Well, petition the.
I think
it's in probate right now.
I think we're gonna have to take care of that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons I really want to get you on is because a lot of people know who you are, but they don't really know. I don't want you to take this as an insult, how smart you are, and how much you know about the city, and how much you know about the history of Miami, and how much you've really helped the restaurant community. Most people probably don't know that you're an attorney. Most people don't know about your involvement in the city. And when you say things, it's not because you're just spewing shit on social media, which you actually don't really do.
No.
But my first question for you, before we dived into the history of how you got here, is why didn't you run for mayor? Like, I would absolutely have voted for you, hands down, and campaigned for you.
I appreciate
because
that.
You really do give a fuck.
Yeah.
I
think there are a lot of reasons. I grew up around politics.
Right.
My dad's brother, my uncle, famously was a county commissioner, was a state rep and state senator, and fled the country, is still on the lam in Australia.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
We'll get into that.
And my father as a judge and my grandfather as a judge both had to run for office often. I actually used to put up political signs. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was he was a handyman. He liked to plumb, do light electrical work.
Right.
He had a white van, and he had his crew. And so he was a judge, but he was a real
man's man,
salty,
right,
salt of the earth kind of guy. And so we used to actually put up signs on the weekends. He had a business for anybody, even people I think running against him. He would go out and, we'd go to Home Depot and he would post hole dig. And back then there weren't as many regulations, or if there were, I guess he didn't give a fuck. And he had the, dot matrix printouts of where we had to go. And we would drive around the city with his crew and we would like post hole dig in the summer and put up giant signs on property. But anyway, I grew up around politics, and that's one reason I wouldn't want to run.
I got it.
And also I think, you can be very effective, I think, without getting caught up in needing to say one thing or another. You're very free to talk about things from a sort of, my perspective is a business owner and a father, and those are, and an attorney, I guess, and as an employer. So like, those are things that I can speak to, and they're uncolored by political donations, things like that. In retirement, maybe that would make sense, but I think something like right now, also I love what I do. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm doing it.
I mean,
I mean, there are days, there are days, but I love what I do.
You are one of the few animals that has more bandwidth than I can ever imagine, because every time we speak, you're always on the go. You're always like, you want to do 5 more projects and you want to just keep doing, but you know what, I learned something about you, that it's not just about feeding your ego or creating something great. You actually like really do give a shit about your employees, because I've seen through the years how you've advocated for them and how you've interacted and how you've done things on their behalf. And I think that's why the city really does respect you and like love you, as much as they do, which I think is really important for a lot of business owners to really take note on. But I want to know the journey, man. I want to know, obviously we know you're from Miami, but I want to know how you got here. Tell me about little Adam Gersten and, because I look at Gramps and it's, obviously one of my favorite bars, but not just because, the location or that there is live music, but just when you walk in there, I feel pop culture. I feel, I just feel like it kind of just takes me back to like a nostalgia day. How did you grow up with that? And tell me about the journey to the first, like, call it venture. And
yeah, I mean, I grew up in a house. My dad loves music. He's a musician, could play piano and guitar, and had records all the time, and he'd make mixtapes and things like that. Yeah, the best. And also grew up doing theater, community theater with Alex Dowd actually once on my beach. No, I swear to God, I got to send you the picture.
Wait, was that with the Tiny Tim, or did you do like a Christmas Carol?
No. It was a play called Dino. It was like about like wayward youth in New York or something like, I don't know. And
did you grow up
the little brother?
Did you grow up on the beach, or did you?
I grew up on the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born on Miami Beach.
Where did you go to school?
I went to North Beach Elementary.
Right. Oh, that's where my kids go.
And then I went to Cushman. Then I went to Ransom. Then I went to New World. So I graduated from New World School of the Arts, which actually, like Billy, because Billy was a year younger than me.
Wait, did you know Billy back then?
At the end of school, like the last months, I would say of senior year.
Because I think we're all kind of the same age. I think we're
similar.
All,
Yeah. But I mean, what's really incredible, if I could just
please
tangent.
Yeah, go for it. Love tangents,
New World,
bro.
but
that's what it's here for.
New World is a very, very special place.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's a magnet art school, and they have the dance and visual arts, theater, musical theater. I mean, I'm sure there's some sub things, but I would just say from my class, there are many, many people that went on to continue in the art discipline. Really? And we have friends on television, in movies, Broadway, folks that continue to dance and have their own dance companies, visual artists that are represented by major galleries and auction houses around the world. So, I mean, and a lot of people still connected and giving back and participating in the art conversation in Miami.
Right.
So I'm just really proud that I'm a graduate of there, that, you know, I still so many of my close friends are still those friends.
Well, you definitely have a collection of. We'll talk about your collection of character friends in a little bit, because
Right.
definitely
I caught a few minutes of Billy's thing, and he said that, and I was like, well, I challenge you to see who's got the on the scale of if we're going to weigh collections of characters,
because you're not gonna get out of here without telling us a couple of like crazy party stories.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. We'll see if I can remember.
Okay, so now you finished that school.
Yeah, finished that school. Went to UF. Went to law school at St. Thomas. Also an amazing experience. Really loved that. Professor Kang was my constitutional law professor, and Ronner was my real estate professor. That really stand out.
Why did you choose law?
And Roman, who did crim law. I loved all those guys. I think I reached a point where trying to, you know, I was looking at real estate and music. I mean, basically,
Right.
I've always wanted to open a bar.
Right.
My whole life.
Which a lot of lawyers I found want to do.
Yes. I think, though, there are lawyers that realize they want to open a bar after they become lawyers.
Right.
There may be less lawyers that grew up from like this big thinking they wanted to own a bar or nightclub, and then became lawyers and realized they should have just done the thing they loved. For me, I felt that going to law school would take me closer
Right.
to it. And when I started to feel like I was maybe going to have to invest too much time, too many years into the practice of law and get sidetracked, that's when I immediately said, no, it's time, like, go do the thing. Because I didn't want to go to law school and not practice.
Right.
So I did 3-4 years, 5, I can't remember exactly, but, you know, I did some years practicing because I didn't want to, you know, I have several members of my family that went to law school.
Right.
And specifically knew they were not going to practice.
Right.
They did it only because they wanted to be lawyers, to understand, because they had other business interests and felt that that was going to enhance their success.
Right.
Which is a huge commitment and kind of wild. And the fact that I had anybody in my, more than one person in a family that would choose to do that and choose to not practice from the beginning,
Right.
like from before they went, I think is something, you know,
Right.
and I think maybe influenced me a little bit.
So now that you're in law school, you're let's say wrapping up, and again, I'm saying this because I know you, and you cannot just think about one thing. In your mind, you always have things brewing.
It's a very noisy place.
It's a noisy place.
Yeah.
But like, and I'm sure that a bar was already in your head. Like, was there like where were you partying at the time? Where were you getting inspiration from at the time?
I always liked and will always like a place that seems to come from ownership.
Right.
I was talking about this yesterday, and it's very obvious to me when I walk into a place that an owner has made real choices and that the place didn't spring up on day one. You know, it doesn't necessarily come out fully formed. It got that way.
Right.
That's really important to me. And so I think I gravitated, to answer your question, towards those places. Those
Right.
are places that made me feel most comfortable. Because you can also have a place that has a point of view, but it's maybe not as rich, as deep. You know, it's like going to a restaurant and you have a dish and you're like, there are some interesting flavors here.
Right.
They aimed for a thing, they read about a thing, they were inspired by a thing, but they didn't live it, breathe it, and fully finish that dish, versus a place that serves slop, or a place that has the name of a thing and a big list of ingredients on it. I went to a restaurant, and I'm not going to say where.
Oh, let's see. We'll
No,
play the
you
guessing
won't
game.
be able to.
We'll
And
play the
I
guessing game.
I don't want to, but you know, Miami is a place where it does not matter what you've done before.
Right.
you can't rest on your laurels. We'll obviously probably end up talking a lot about that, but you know, but coming back to the type of place that places I went to, Churchill's back, I'm talking, you know, when I was in high school, I used to do open mic night with some friends of mine.
Awesome.
So that's like 93, 94, 92, whatever, that area. Then went back to Churchill's a lot in the late 90s, early 2000s, and started DJing there actually in the backyard. We kind of were the ones that me and some buddies cleared out the backyard. There was a yard between Dave's house, which is now demolished,
Right.
and the bar, and it was just filled with all of Dave's hoardings. So you couldn't walk back there.
Yep.
You know, there was a bar back there, but it was all covered with shit. So we went back there and cleared it out and started doing a night back there. I think it was Friday nights, called Jukebox of Death. But I loved going there. But no, Revolver, Pop Life. I mean, I'm from that era mostly. So late 90s. Inspiration wise, though, late 80s,
Right.
early 90s, Miami Beach. As a kid, my parents were very cool about letting us, me and my brother, I have 3 siblings, but me and my brother, who's closest in age to me, you know, being able to go to the record shops back then, Y&T, and there was a place called Flamingo Joe's, and we used to, you know, but even as they do now, some of the kids that had quinces and bar mitzvahs that could, you know, the rich kids renting out clubs.
Right.
So there were a few times where I got to see those early clubs. I'm talking pre-Liquid, pre that era.
Right.
So there was a place, Asylum, which was where Club New used to store its giant decorations because they would change them out.
It's so funny. We were just with John Turchin, actually.
Oh, no
the other
way.
day.
So
Yeah.
did you guys talk about New? And
We spoke a little bit about it. Me and Kaylin were actually at his farm in North Carolina a month ago. He opened Horseshoe Farms, which actually, you want to talk about going from one extreme to another.
Wow.
I mean, but yeah, he was in it. Right?
Wow. Yeah. And, you know, Club New lasted long enough for me to actually be old enough to get into a show.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I saw there. But, you know, that there were some cool bars. There was like the Beehive Cafe on Lincoln Road that would do shows sometimes.
We'll definitely talk about Lincoln in a little bit.
Yeah.
I like to talk about Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, there was that. Places in Gainesville, but, you know, places that were made by hand by the owners.
So let me tell you guys something I see all the time. You take over a second gen space, you think it's turnkey, but the second you walk in, it's not exactly what you need. Maybe the bar layout doesn't flow, maybe the kitchen's a little outdated, or the bathrooms look like they haven't been touched since the 90s. That's why I tell all my clients, you need to call Brodson Construction. Whether you're building from the ground up or not, you still need the finishing touches done right. Brodson's been local and family run since 1989. They're the top 1% in Florida, and they've handled everything from luxury homes on Star Island to some of Miami's best retail and restaurant spaces like LPM, Cipriani, Hillstone, Bell Harbor, just to name a few. Bottom line, don't settle for nickel and dime contractors who might underbid the work to win the job up front and screw you over in the end. Brodson maintains integrity every step of the process to build enduring relationships and never exploit clients. So remember, if you're going to build, call Brodson Construction. Look, as a business owner, I'll be real with you. Running my brokerage takes all my time. And in Miami, if you're not showing up online or on social media, you just don't exist. That's why I've worked with Sage Marketing Studios from the very beginning. Website, social, even this podcast. They're the ones behind the camera. Building strategy, keeping it consistent, and making sure my brand looks like it actually belongs in the city. So just a tip. Stop having your cousin post blurry iPhone pics once every 3 months. Hit up Sage Marketing Studios. You can find them on Instagram at socialmedia.sage and tell them Felix sent you.
So when did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to make the jump. Wynwood and Gramps, and, you know, for people that don't know where you got the name Gramps from.
Oh, yeah. So Gramps is my grandfather. Right. Which actually I don't think we really called him Gramps. I think I have one cousin that called him Gramps, but we actually called him Beepa. Beepa, I guess. Right. I don't know. But no, the story of how the name came about was his office was something out of the like 60s. It was a very dark, soundproof walls.
What didn't he want people to hear? Anything.
And anything. No, and it was cool. There's like a giant round burl wood table.
Yep.
With 4 sort of swivel club or captain chairs. very comfortable, like I think a yellow or greenish velour. And the ceiling tiles were like these reverse pyramid wooden things. It was just really cool. And I was over there taking pictures for some decor ideas. Right. And a friend of mine from out of town, LA, Sasha Rothschild, who's a writer, screenwriter and for TV and I think movies. And her dad was a famous author down here who co-wrote a book with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And also wrote kind of a wild sort of gonzo era book about Florida, and then ended up writing financial books. But anyway, she was staying at the Standard and we went to go see her, and I was like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm just taking pictures of Gramps. And she's like, oh, is that the bar you're working on? And I was like, it is now, because that's the name.
I never knew that. I never knew that story.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a long story, but basically I was looking for a name that drew together history, right? It had a sense of history, also familial and friendly and relatable and all of that. And so that was it. I was like, oh, it's old. It's, whatever. It just fit. And it's also easy to say,
right?
It was perfect.
And then what about like Wynwood?
Right.
How did Wynwood come about?
Wynwood's easy. For me, my grandfather's office was 26 in Biscayne.
Okay. So Edgewater.
I grew up in Edgewater.
Right.
I ended up living in Edgewater after my first stint in college at UF. I came back here for a little while and lived off of 26 over by the water. And a lot of people who were out of high school and staying in or left and came back to Miami and really pollinated the art and music scene that we kind of have now. It was all happening then, like late 90s. A lot of what remains and has been built upon, especially say in a more alternative and artistic realm, sort of had its genesis then, and specifically in Edgewater and Wynwood, is very central. So like kids that live down south were like, I'm moving up north,
That was
the Northlands, right? And if you lived in Miami Shores or Miami Beach, so that kind of became the spot. And the galleries were starting to pop up in Wynwood, and Aramis from Pop Life had moved from the Gables where he started Pop Life up to Piccadilly Gardens in Design District, which I think the building's still there. It has the courtyard, brick. I don't know what it is now, but it's across
Chrome Hearts.
It's across from where Andrew and Dale Zine are now.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, where Oak Bar used to be.
Oak Tavern. Right.
Oak Tavern.
Yes.
Oak Tavern.
Yes. Where Oak Tavern. So there was that, and there was Revolver, which bounced around between the 1800 Club, which was an incredible cavern of a bar, literally like coral rock walls, which is actually something I'm working on now as an homage to that place. And
so back then Wynwood was kind of like more of like a grungy underground for people that don't know what Wynwood was like.
Yeah, Wynwood was actually like a wrong turn.
Right.
Like, no, I mean, when I was a kid, Wynwood had Darissa or like the little clothing stores and things like that, but it was like get in, get out.
Right.
And
people don't know that once upon a time it was actually a Puerto Rican neighborhood, right?
Absolutely. And before that, it was like there were delis, Jewish delis on Fifth Avenue. I mean, it was like old.
Interesting.
Yeah, because there's
a lot of schmat, because the schmatzes business, right?
Schmata business.
Right. So there was a lot of like, people producing clothing.
They call them sweatshops, Felix. No, and those passed through multiple generations of different ethnic backgrounds because it was Jewish. Then I think the more. This is according to some anecdotal and my own personal sort of observation was, clearly Puerto Rican to the north. In Wynwood, it was more industrial. There were not, I know that there was a few like, gentrification, but I have friends that owned Brooke Dorsch owned the property across from Gramps well before I signed a lease, to open. He lived there for a long time when it was pretty dangerous. Fred Schnitzer had his gallery there. and there were other galleries there.
Well, and you had the art walk, right? Every other Sunday.
Yeah, there was the art walk, but I'm talking even before that.
Right.
You know, is largely industrial.
Right.
And in a lot of cases by 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, the industry had died. So you just had basically predominantly one caretaker with a forklift and a bunch of old equipment and nothing really happening in the warehouses. A lot of Korean families owned Fifth Ave and still were running the old school businesses.
Right.
Not so much manufacturing, but volume and, you know, discounted kind of stuff.
Right.
Basically same schmata business.
Yep.
Right. And then eventually, right, that flipped over to sort of, I would say, more local investors.
Right. And to your right,
big time, but you know,
right.
I don't know if you know the names, but whatever, Lombardi, Steve Rhodes, you know, the Goldmans, obviously, right. Eli Matrani, R.I.P., wonderful guy.
Yeah,
he was a really, really nice guy. So that happened, and then the institutional stuff, and then the institutions started flipping to each other,
right.
And now you know what happens, right? It's they build everybody gets out, tries to get out. I don't know. These guys are probably not meeting their pro formas.
Right.
I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if these apartment buildings are full or are not full, which I should know because I have a bar across the street. But
no, some of them are full. I think, like, listen, the ones between, you know, Second Ave and Fifth Ave are full. I think North Miami Ave fucking sucks. I don't know what people think even going there. But
I think it's a simple fix if we want to talk about.
Yeah, of course.
Obvious, but I mean, it's a highway.
Right.
And unless they slow it down and do bump outs and calm the traffic there, it's just a flyby.
But like, you know, like again, Gramps leaving was very, very bittersweet for me because I feel that that's it. Like once Gramps leaves, and maybe that's why I'm so like really vocal about it, because I feel that once Gramps leaves, like that's it. That's the old Wynwood. That was the last piece of the old Wynwood, and that was the only place where you could do real live music and where nobody judges anybody, and you could go there, have a drink, have a good time, listen to some great music, listen to some great bands. It was just, and I think I'm pissed that like once that goes, everything's gonna be a fucking Foot Locker and a Starbucks.
I mean, it is that already. There's a Starbucks and a Foot Locker, right? Dave's Hot Chicken,
right?
God bless him,
right?
But I mean, Dante's is there. You know, they're doing great. They're carrying a great torch for music.
Don't get me wrong, but Dante. There's definitely some,
there's some stuff.
Great restaurants.
No, and I love pasties.
Zach and pasties.
Right. It's all there, and so I think going to sort of the, you know, you want to talk about the history of Wynwood,
right?
Really, the history of Wynwood is just constant evolution,
right? And
some periods of evolution are longer than others, and some are shorter,
right?
And so I always tell people this: you could tell, oh, the old Wynwood. I disagree.
Okay,
I've been open there for 13 years,
right? Which is a great run. Great run.
Thank you. And if you count the time it took to get open, longer. Right. 15 years. I don't know. Whatever. Wait. So what I have seen is that every 6 months, the place went through some form of evolution. There was more of this, there was less of this. You felt the rumblings of this or that.
So for the people that say it was easier to open back then,
I disagree. I mean, I got my permits and all, you know, I hired an expediter and all this, and I still got raided. I still got hassled by the city for insane things. And at the time too, it was simultaneous. There were full on clubs that had nothing. Right. So, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing it this way. These guys are doing it that way. I don't really give a shit. You know, to me, I'm always like, the more people that are, the more bodies in the street, the better. Not on the street.
A lot of you know me from my F&B Miami page, but what you might not know is that I also run Florida's largest restaurant real estate brokerage called F&B Hospitality. Every week I meet somebody that thought that they could just wing it on a restaurant lease. And every week on F&B Miami, you guys see how that turns out. And that is exactly why I started F&B Hospitality Brokerage. We treat our clients' money like it's our money. We don't say things just to say it or paint pretty little pictures. We go based on facts and numbers. If we don't like a deal, location, or permit status, we are absolutely not afraid to tell tell you. It's about setting you up to last. So you could focus on food and foodies while we negotiate the build out and the terms.
Who were some of the more notable guys when you opened? Like, what were some of the more notable places? Like Wood Tavern and...
Yeah, Wood, El Patio.
Yep.
I mean, that was insane.
Right.
What they were able to do. Obviously for us, it was a little, it's continues to be a little inconvenient. And you know, I know Philippe, the owner, but you know, it's hard. Like we might have an acoustic night
Right.
and it's, you know, 5, whatever. And they're already going, you know?
and
so
it's,
like
it's also a one-way street.
Yeah,
and-
no. And well, it wasn't. And then
Back
it
then?
was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a 2-way street, but it was very narrow.
I don't remember that.
And that got dangerous because it would just get backed up because
Right.
people would be trying to park and then also go in 2 lanes. And, you know, we were like, someone's going to get hurt and you're not going to get an ambulance.
Right.
And the bid came to us and said, well, the street's going to go out from Northwest 2nd, not in from North Miami. And I was like,
Treat yourself pretty much.
kind of sucks for
Right.
me. In the end, it really doesn't matter. But real quick, just back to the evolution part, you know, it's just, yeah, there's just been a constant stream of change. And first everybody was playing this kind of music, then that kind of, it's like, to me, the bigger question is now that these buildings have largely gone up or the first wave is up, what does the neighborhood feel like? Physically, how do you feel as a pedestrian? What's the experience on the street? Because there were talks about these aims to make Wynwood this very walkable, where, you know, a lot of the buildings were forced in a good way. I think it was a good design choice, a good, you know, exercise to have the paseos, to have the blocks cut in half or in thirds by pass-throughs. If you owned here and on this block and you built a big building, that you had to be able to walk through and not have to walk all the way to the end of the block. But now, you know, the developers have largely ignored their paseos. They kind of treated them, maybe they have fake plants, maybe they don't, whatever. They're dark at night, which was the fear, right? The idea was, oh, no. We're going to build these and it's going to be great and they'll be safe and it makes everything safe and you don't have to walk down the dark. Well, now it's like more dangerous to walk through some of the paseos.
Right.
Because they're neglected, because developers don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know?
Is that, I guess, is that what happened? Was it the greed? Was it like, you know, obviously, you know,
and you know, I don't mean to say like the developers, but like you have a choice,
right?
You know, you can, where are you going to spend your continuing maintenance dollars?
Right.
And if you don't have a full building, you're not putting your maintenance dollars anywhere.
Right.
Elevators stop work. You know how it goes. So I think it's,
but who can afford to do another Gramps?
Well,
style
that's the problem is, right, as long as someone has built a building with a pro forma that says we need to get X for this and X for this,
right,
your rents are just kind of stuck where they are until either someone buys their thing in distress or they decide to condoize and sell off retail space, potentially at a price where an end user can say, I'm just going to lock in and I'm going to overpay now, but believe in the neighborhood long term. You know, like, I mean, it's definitely something I still consider, you know, like, I mean, do I believe that Wynwood 5 years from now will be a dynamic, interesting place that could support places like mine, that can sell a beer slightly below market rate or whatever?
Right.
I don't know, you know, but if you bought today or if you were able to lease today, then maybe you could, you know, maybe a place like that could exist.
I don't know, man. You know, people could fucking call me doom and gloom all they want. I'm the one that gets the phone calls. What is my place worth? And this is like 6 months after they open. You know, the amount of calls I'm getting, people are like, well, I want to take that space. Well, there's so much space, you know, I'll take it. Yeah, you're going to pay $60,000 a month for a place that just will close, that was open for 6 months. And I'm seeing more of those types of places. And it's like getting the community emotionally invested into some of these restaurants that will close when they realize they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know what to do with permitting or how to handle it. So it's like, I don't know, man. I just hope it doesn't turn into another Lincoln Road, where Lincoln Road was the coolest place on the planet because there was nowhere else to go. There was no Little River. There was no Brickell. There was no Wynwood. and I feel that there was that turn a couple of years ago where maybe it was during COVID, maybe right before COVID, where the out of town developers started coming in and they really didn't give a fuck about the neighborhood. It was just, pro forma, REITs, pro forma. We don't get, Zach the baker. We can get, $100 a foot for that place. When I hear talk like that, like it disgusts me. And again, listen, I'm in real estate. I'm not saying, I get why everybody's in the business, but I don't know what, you're not going to focus on locals because the locals are not going to go and the tourists want to go what's hot today and they're going to move on to the next place tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot in what you just said.
Right.
There's the tourists who will come to Wynwood.
Right.
They are not going to not. Right.
Even with
because you know what you know,
right?
But someone from out of town, they're still going to come take pictures of things that we take for granted,
right? But will they support those businesses a couple of times a month, which is what they're going to need?
No. But if there's
business,
if there's a constant flow of tourists, yes, I mean, you wonder how some places make it on 8th Street, but it's like, oh, right, cruise ships, and they're just get off the boat and go to 8th Street and go back on the boat.
Right.
Like people are doing that to Wynwood.
Right.
So like we could take that for granted, but that still happens.
Right.
And they are probably just looking for a margarita.
Right.
Which is why one of the only bars functioning in Wynwood is Margarita Mama or whatever, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So I think like the tourists will come. But to your point, is it going to be like Lincoln Road where everybody's just priced out? You're just looking at empty storefronts. I don't know because, and I think and I don't mean this.
Please hit me.
No, in a bad way, but out of two sides of your mouth, because like on one hand, it's like, oh, it's crazy, but then on the other hand, what'd you say before we started? Demand.
Right.
There's a demand for people just want to give it a go. They have an idea. They have a niche. They have the money. Maybe they don't have an idea. Maybe they just have the money. Like there's all there's
what it is.
The pillar of things, whatever it is, they're opening. They're signing leases and
what also goes back to the mentality of my baby's the most beautiful baby. Like, Miami pizza shit. They've never tried my pizza. I got money. Put me in Brickell at $300 a foot. I'm gonna outsell everybody. When I hear shit like that, Adam, I'm like, oh, he's not gonna make it 6 months. He's fucked.
Yeah. Or I mean, with the way the city permits,
right?
And
which most people don't know about.
No. Oh, they do because of you.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
They know because of you. No, and we'll talk about it, but I do think that there are a lot of people in the city that I talk to and work with directly that really, really want to see that process work for the businesses.
And there's rumblings. I think me and you both have heard how they're going to start making things a little easier, possibly even come February. I think we both know that, there's some dockets out there about maybe some grease trap changes. And
I know I've heard some things about the county looking at some stuff and the city looking at the city's definitely right. I heard, and this I have no hard confirmation, but I understand there's some kind of conversation happening about that. It's also an election year, so I don't know what's real and what's
that's my biggest concern
out there. But I would say that I have participated in great conversations where the city has reached out to some stakeholders, some attorneys. I kind of wear a lot of hats because I'm an attorney, but I'm a business owner. I don't practice. And also those sit on the planning and zoning board. So I hear the applications. So I know what holds them up. What does the city not like? What does the board not like? What is the public not like about things coming to their neighborhood? And we've had these discussions with the department heads and everyone is engaged. And I mean, I have no dog in this other than hoping that it works.
Right.
But every person sitting at that table, within their ability to be open-minded because they still have a job to perform and all this stuff, is trying to literally come up with solutions, adapting procedures, potentially changing some code to make it easier for people to get through the process. what I think they still, and I will speak to them, my friends in the city who I talk to and work with, can never forget that it's still bad if it requires an attorney and an expediter, and when you have kids and multiple responsibilities in terms of running your business and payroll and a bad season, to then take time and chase the city staff for mundane, that asking for a correction. And I don't know how we solve this, but asking for a correction to a minor correction to a plan that has to send you back to an architect who has to check with an attorney. Like, this is if you can afford all this stuff, right? So it's like how if we're not making it so that someone who wants to open a store can basically get help at a desk to resolve these issues on site, and you're going to send them home and send them to an architect and send them to an attorney and send them to an expediter, all of which cost thousands and thousands of dollars. It doesn't make any sense. Add to that what people are asking for in rent and da 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 da. Now you're talking about we're still not solving the problem. Right. That's the only thing is, I think and obviously it's not on the city to solve all those problems, but there are things that they can do, and I think are trying to do, to make it so that some of these repetitive, simple tasks and simple sort of adjustments to minor things can happen on site, which I think will be huge for the city.
So, listen, I'm always the one that, when somebody's like, I want to do a build out from scratch, but the landlords tell me I'll, because I've built my place out in North Carolina and New York, I'll be open in 6 months. So he was nice enough to give me 10 months for free to do my grease trap. For those who really don't know, and, so they don't say that I'm spreading doom and gloom and misinformation, you as an operator have been it several times, more than several. You've started, you've changed, you've every code for the last 15 years you are aware of. For somebody that is planning on opening a place, let's call it new construction, but it's zoned for retail.
Sure.
Explain to our people what that process takes.
I'm not gonna go through the whole entire thing.
Right.
But I will give you an example of something that is bizarre.
And the time that it takes.
Okay, we can get into that. But something that's bizarre, and you talk about me, it's impossible to know all the code, and some of the code is so insane.
But it's funny because every time I ask you, it's okay. And again, usually when I don't know something, you're usually the first person I call.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. But I don't know.
Right.
And I don't know because some of the things I had a conversation.
He's being super modest, by the way.
No. Really, this is a guy and I were arguing because, okay, so in the city, there are transects, which basically talk about, there's a chart, a table. This is actually really good. I don't know if you've ever talked about this. So this would be really good for anyone looking to sign a lease. In Miami 21, which is our code, there are zoning transects. And each of those transects has a chart that tells you, okay, if it's zoned this, you can do these things by right, or by warrant, or by exception. By right means you just apply for the CU. No. I mean, if you need to build something, you need to do all the right stuff, but it's allowed. You can do that thing.
Right.
You can be that thing on that piece of dirt.
Right.
Or in that room in that building.
Sure.
Okay. So that's a transect. And in that transect, there are typically, so if it's, let's say it's T4, which is what I want to talk about, T4R, T4L, T4O. T4R is residential, L is limited commercial, and O is open. So in limited commercial, you could do certain types of commercial activity by right.
Yep. And
potentially by warrant, which is an administrative application process, or by exception, which is in front of the board that I sit on. And then in O, typically that chart expands of what you can do, and in a lot of cases, what you can do without asking anyone.
Right.
I mean, you still need to get a license. Right. I don't have to keep saying that, but that's what that means.
But for those that, again.
Right.
Listen,
No, but this is stuff that nobody's going to explain when you're about to sign a lease.
Right.
Or they might misrepresent.
Right.
Because there are people that misrepresent.
No, you don't say.
Felix, I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe it, but there are some real estate brokers out there that don't tell the truth.
Don't believe it.
No,
They're all super honest. When they're offering me new space with a 6-month build out at $150 a foot with no TI, but we can get it done.
Yeah,
But,
sure. Now, I will say ambition on the part of a tenant is critical.
Right.
But you've got to be excited, motivated, but you have to do your, what is called in the business, due diligence.
100%.
Due diligence isn't just a hope and a prayer. You have to actually know these things, right? Because you could come back and by the way, when I say like, I don't know, in the last several weeks, I've gone back to the city and been like, I didn't know I needed to do, like,
and this is somebody you know what, like
I don't, and that's the thing. You can't, you don't. And what I wanted to get to, the crazy story. Right. So in T4, which T4L and T4O, limited commercial, which is something that the city's been making some modifications to. And this will get in the weeds, but basically T3, that's your residential duplex, whatever. And T5 starts to be a little more density, which means more units in a building, smaller or bigger, but you can have more of them, and more commercial kind of activity. T4 is a weird in-between zone that the city has used to transition to single family and duplex homes. But in the modern economy, in 2025, it is impossible to make the numbers work to really develop a T4 site or even redevelop an old building. One of the crazy things, there was a rule, and I think we just got it changed, and this is also through conversation and again to engagement, staff going, what do we need to do to make this make sense, right? Like, we need to hear from you, which is great. You couldn't have a restaurant with more than 40 seats in T4. Do you know how few? I did not know that.
And doesn't matter how many square feet.
I didn't know. Right. You could have a 3,000 square foot building with all the right number of bathrooms and grease trap, and then be like, you can only have 40 seats. Yep. Why? Nobody knows. Right. Nobody fucking knows. Right. So that kind of stuff is like when no one can really know why.
And then you can't make the per square foot numbers work because you can only do, 40 seats on 4,000 square feet.
And the beautiful thing, happy to report, there is great. There's a receptive group of talented professionals in city staff that understand that this isn't, and remember, we're talking the scale of the shit where the most problems are in the zoning code are at a small scale.
Right.
The mellow group doesn't have to worry about these problems. Related doesn't have to worry about these problems. Right. And you'd be shocked at how fast those guys can get through permitting compared to a person trying to redevelop a 1,500 square foot space.
Shocking.
Facts.
Right.
So that we have to fix, and I actually believe something is happening there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of in the weeds stuff. But yeah, you got to know your transect. You got to know what you have to apply for. A warrant isn't the end of the world. An exception isn't the end of the world. I would say that if you can, there are differing opinions about what's, easier, quote unquote. But to me, if you have to spend money on an attorney and appear in front of a board, you don't want to go to exception. Even, in front of our board, it's not a bad thing. It's you come, you explain the project, your attorney explains the project. We actually had an alcohol applicant recently that came in pro se, which means they represented themselves. Right. And I was like, congratulations. Like, I cannot believe that you guys did this on your own.
And they got it done?
They got it done.
Who do we give the shout out to?
I don't know the name, but I think it's on 36th Street or around there. And they came in and obviously, like in court, when they say, what is it? Lawyer that represents himself has a fool for a client. Right. I would say a fool for a client that represents himself has a fool for a client. I mean, you're crazy to represent yourself. You don't know all the terms, legal terms of art and things like that. So we did kind of, in that hearing, mention to them, like, look, the city's given you a list of things you have to agree to, and you're saying you agree to them. Right. Do you understand? Yep. what you are agreeing to.
Right.
Oh, no, yeah, we want to. That's all you can do, right? In a criminal case, they'll be like, do you understand the charges again? And the guy goes, yeah, I do. Okay, well, I mean, you just hope that what they're saying, they know what they're talking about.
Right.
Right. But they did get their alcohol exception, so they could serve alcohol on the site.
And speaking of alcohol, like,
Sorry, real quick.
Go ahead.
On that note, another thing that has to get worked on it.
Yep.
On the list of grievances here, but this is everyone's grievance.
Right.
We have a lot of issues where a building or a site has had a use for years. It falls out of, the CU goes inactive. And the city says you have to go back to square one as though, real life. I have a building that was built in the 1930s. The entire time the building existed, it was a bar on the ground floor. And I had to go back to square one after the bar had been closed for 10 years, but it closed as a bar legally. Every use when I bought the building, I think had been illegal.
But you paid the impact fees. You're like,
we're jumping ahead.
Right.
Jumping ahead. But the point is, there are places that paid impact fees years ago.
Right.
Had the use, and the city might put someone, well, but it's been out of thing and you need to come back. It's like, no, here's, and then they'll say, show us the plans from when this was a bar. Okay. The city lost.
Right.
They don't have all the records.
No way.
And you may be a tenant with an out-of-town landlord.
Right.
Who knows for a fact, because the city and the county gave you the records to say it had a certificate of use as a bar for 50 years.
Right.
But I can't show you the plans because I don't own the building.
Right.
The landlord bought the building 3 years ago. They don't have the dusty plans from the guy that owned the building 5 owners ago.
Right.
And the city's lost those plans, or just has some line drawing of a plumbing line from 1932 on an index card that was scanned. Okay. So you're putting it on a tenant to prove the thing that basically the city's already proven to you it already was a bar. Do I have the drawing of what the bar looked like? No. Can we just assume that what I rented, if it isn't going to burn down tomorrow and is not a life safety threat, we're going to give it a certificate of use for the use that it had been? That's how it should be, because nobody can say one way or the other, right? Let's assume there needs to be some form of not treating every new applicant as a crook.
Right.
Right. Are some of them? Yes.
Sure.
Of course.
Miami.
Of course. Right. But we need to keep the ball rolling and kind of have a reset at a certain point, And so I think that is something that, I don't know where the city or staff stands on that. And I think some probably try to work through that because everyone would consider that largely a waste of time. But that's a big issue for a lot of people signing leases.
Right.
They have the right, they have a prior use, they have all this stuff. Everything on its face in a due diligence period appears to make sense. Then you go and you put in a building permit for your occupant load and your life safety plan, and they're like, whoa, well, show us where this existed before. It's like, will you show me where it existed before? I walked into the space, I signed the lease, this is the space they showed me, and that's it. So now what the city is doing is essentially forcing a small scale tenant, a mom and pop 1,500 square foot space, to become an architect. Like, I mean, I'm talking beyond, to figure out whether this was there in that doesn't make sense, right? Like I said, does the electric panel, is it safe? Is there a fire sprinkler if there needs to be? Is there a hood? Is it whatever? Like, is anyone going to die here? And then beyond that, let's get it. Let's reestablish. Let's let these places get their CU and move on.
Right.
Because if the use was allowed, the use was allowed.
Right.
Right. And that holds up a lot of projects. I'm sure you've had people get into situations like that all the time.
Dozens.
Yeah. And then what does that cost the city in terms of, we could have an active
cost? How many people signed a lease and just couldn't open, and they just gave back the keys, and the landlord would just not mention any of it to the next guy.
Yeah.
You obviously use
happened
it.
To me. That's definitely happened to me.
Right.
Definitely happened to me.
So, and then what about where we started getting on liquor, for example?
Sure.
Is getting a liquor license in Wynwood as easy it used to be, or are
I
places
honestly-
too close to each other now?
Yeah, I honestly don't know, because when I first started,
Right.
we had the distance separations were waived, and they had the cafe, the warrant.
Right.
You could have X amount of warrants next to each other. They're trying to encourage it. Also, people do have large spaces. No matter what, typically, if you have over 5,000 square feet, you need to go in for a special exception to have alcohol, because they're assuming it's a larger, high impact alcohol establishment. Also, I think a lot of people don't realize in the city that we used to have a lot of categories, and we still have a training gap with, and I say we, I do not work for the city.
Right.
I am an appointee on a board. I say we as in people that live in this city,
Right.
in this industry.
The people
have a problem because there's a training gap with code enforcement, building code enforcement. All of these guys have different trainings. I know they're working on trying to get everybody up to speed, but there are still some guys that have been working there forever that are union guys. They don't give a fuck what the new rule is. They're like, nope, it is what it is. It's what I say it is. I'm not going to name names, but there.
You can though.
I cannot. But we changed the code.
Right.
Again, we not me.
They changed the code.
Yeah, but collectively, I mean, people had conversations to try to get together, stakeholders and things like that. But there's an alcohol primary, and then there's like restaurants that can sell alcohol.
Right.
Which is basically the difference between I'm a bar and I'm a restaurant that has alcohol.
Right.
Those
but now
So those two, this is important.
Right.
Two distinctions. Some code enforcement, some folks in the finance department say you are a bar, but you're selling food. You're also a restaurant. I can tell you that the code specifically changed, and that is not true. You are never a restaurant if the code has designated you alcohol primary. You are you can come up with whatever name you want. A tavern, a
tavern
bar,
with food,
a tavern with food. But food, even if food, you can have 99% food sales and 1% alcohol sales, because that's what happened.
Right.
But if you went in as an alcohol primary establishment, you're an alcohol establishment, right? So you are bound by the rules of a tavern, which means you can do whatever you want, right? You can sell tons of liquor, you can sell no liquor, but you have a 4 COP.
An appetizer on the fucking whatever it is. Right.
You are a 4 COP full alcohol establishment, right? Restaurant with alcohol has to sell 51% food and is always a restaurant. And if they sell more than that, they need to consider switching to alcohol primary.
But a lot of those guys got catering licenses, and
well, that's a whole other realm. Right. But what I will say is numerous people were cited. Some people were arrested for being a tavern.
Yep.
With a kitchen and no BTR for a restaurant. But the code says you're not a restaurant. The code says you have to be. You are. We told you are a tavern.
Yep.
But now you're arresting people for being a restaurant, but you're not a restaurant. You're only a restaurant if by code you are a restaurant.
Right.
That is crazy. It's unconstitutional. I've brought this up. I hope that practice has stopped. We have definitely there are lawyers with cases that are closed and clients that have closed those cases where they were thrown out of court because the city was dead wrong and deprived them of their rights. No one's filed a civil rights or whatever, but yeah, that's a problem. So when you have those training gaps, when you have a disagreement between someone who just says, I choose to ignore the law that you are telling me I have to administer, that's a problem.
Tell me about so for example, Gramps, when you opened, what time were you allowed to operate until?
3 a.m.
3 a.m.
Always 3 a.m.
And it was getting like live music a big issue? Because at the time they were residential, but it wasn't like.
Oh yeah, no, right. Obviously, as a industrial wasteland that it was, no, we had one resident living a few doors down. It was an older guy in his 90s, late 80s at the time. He couldn't hear. He never had a problem. We'd help him get his. It was very different. He passed away. He got to live out his years in his home.
Right.
He loved the activity, and he was part, but that was it. We didn't really have anybody on. So for us, it wasn't really an issue.
So, but then the crowd that like came to Gramps, it almost felt like a weird little family. Just the people, for the shows, and it was everybody knew who was performing and what was that always your intention? That whole scene to do more of like
live music,
live music.
I think Miami is a place where it has always been. You could do what we do 10 times,
right,
20 times, 30 times in cities like New York or Boston, whatever, LA. LA is kind of spread out like Miami, so it's a little different and maybe more similar. Sure. But the interest in some of these things, there's just a smaller crowd. There just is a smaller crowd. I think Dave Sinopoli and Aramis Laurie have grown.
He's really been in the fucking scene for a while.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think I remember him when I was going nightclubbing back
and
in the day.
everybody of the
he was the doorman. He was like the doorman.
Everybody of the alternative crew, let's say, if you're into any kind of live, like goth shit or just indie stuff, whatever it's been called through the years, right? If you're from Miami, it kind of came out of like Cameo Theater, which was James Quinlan, who runs the band shell. Yep. So like everybody's still here doing it and trying and bringing it, Rhythm Foundation, James used to book the Cameo, which was an amazing live venue. And, I saw so many great shows there, again, that late 80s, early 90s era of South Beach.
Is that where you drew a lot of the inspiration from?
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Give me some. Okay. So now you're a fucking bar owner in Wynwood. You're the hot shit. Were any celebrities roll through? Like any kind of like cool?
Yeah.
I know I've seen pictures like Phil Collins and
Phil Collins.
I mean, dude, that's one of my goats.
That day was incredible because we had, and that was also sort of like the full, let's say the fully realized vision. At happy hour, we had a fundraiser for a judge. Then I think Hannibal Buress did a comedy set, and I think did a comedy set, and then we turned the room around. I might be remember it wrong. Maybe he did it the night before or whatever, but he was in town, and then we turned the room around, and Phil's son, Nick, who was learning the drums at the time and started his first like high school band or maybe even junior high, I don't even know. Yep. Had his first gig in Shirley's theater in the back room. Right. And that was great. I mean, Phil was there, and
because Phil lived on North Bay Road at the time, right?
Yeah. And Nick still comes back. Nick's actually going to play one of the last, in the series of final shows. Nick's going to bring his band, Better Strangers, back to Gramps. And I think is it John Legend maybe was there?
Really?
His wife, Chrissy. There was a party. Right. They're very quiet, just sit in the corner in a booth, like they were with. There was I think one of the promoters was friends. It was was not a scene at all. It was just they were there to listen to the music a little bit and take off. I've been told after the fact, this so and so was here. Obviously, Eric, Andre,
who I love. I think he's one of the funniest guys on the planet. I think I was watching even last night. I think I was watching him tell a story of how he took Molly and he thought everybody was dragons and he puked and demon and whatever. He is such. Did you meet him through Hannibal or was
No. Actually, Irene Morales. So. Some of the local, this is important. Right. This is really important. And
because he's had some history in Wynwood also.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, no, Hannibal. Right. Yeah. But no, Irene, who is a relentlessly hardworking comic. Right. Who now seems to have also very successfully transitioned to television. So she's got some roles now. I don't know all the shows because I'm not a big TV guy.
Right.
But she's incredible. And just like one of those people that where, it's like the perseverance, it's like a lesson in perseverance, right? Just works so fucking hard and is such a nice person. And I mean, just great. And so, yeah, she would always, like, if comics were in town, she'd be like, oh, so-and-so's up in Fort Lauderdale or in Boca or whatever. They want to come down and can they come? And I was like, yeah, of course, bring them. I didn't know, Eric's show at the time. I think it was New Year's 2013 to 14 or 2014 to 15. I can't remember.
Yep.
So, yeah, he came, they pulled up in the car and some people were like, oh, you know what he does? I hope this place is still standing afterwards.
Right.
It was a tame version of Eric's stand-up.
Well, if you haven't watched the Eric Andre show, I strongly recommend it. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And so he did it was a New Year's Eve. So we did the countdown and whatever, and it was over and went outside. But yeah, we remained friends and traveled together, and we're working on some stuff now.
You guys doing Oktoberfest this year?
No, I think that was
I was gonna say, if you guys are I'm coming. I'm fucking coming. Fuck that.
That was fun.
Was that a good time?
Oh, Oktoberfest is very cool.
Yeah, but Oktoberfest is Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest with
Well, it's more.
Eric
It's
Andre's,
really more than Eric. There's a crew: Carl Hess and Nick Rutherford and Gabe Rutia, who you know.
Yep, love Gabe.
Professor Gabe.
Shout out to Professor Gabe.
Yeah, and congrats on Salud. I think that's going to be a huge success.
I think it's got a monster. Yep.
It's for those of you guys that don't know, because it's just been introduced to the world, it's his baby. He started basically like what is I don't think it's diminishing it, or I think it's a compliment saying, it's like a Miami Spice type of thing, but for beverage, for cocktails and that kind of thing. So all the bars are participating and doing specials for the month of, is it October? October, right. Okay, October. So they're just kicking that off now, but I think it's an amazing.
I think it's great. And I think
such a simple idea, and we need it.
Right.
October is our worst month.
And I love everything he does for the community. He's so involved.
That's a guy.
Yeah.
Who there's like a saying, is like, if you have a baby, it brings my buddy who's Puerto Rican. I don't know if it's a Puerto Rican saying, but he told me.
Wynwood?
No, but he did tell me this when I had our first kid. He said, there's a Puerto Rican saying that a baby brings a loaf of bread in its arm. I don't know how many other cultures have that saying, but I'm going to just go with that. It's Puerto Rican. And I always consider Gabe like a consistent baby with a bread in his arm, because since I met that guy, he's always just said, what can I do to help? What can I bring?
Naturally, without
that's his oxygen.
Right. Even for the City Hall thing, when we were there for the raids, he was there speaking his mind. He didn't have to be. He did not. He had no skin in the game.
And Will Thompson from
love Will.
Yeah, Will is a real serious stand-up guy.
Yep.
I mean,
big shout out to Will.
Will
Constantiki and
Better Days, right?
Better Days, and dude, he's by far one of the best bartenders / human beings on the planet. He really cares about the community.
Absolutely. So yeah, Gabe. So I don't know why we were talking about Gabe, but Gabe, you're great.
Gabe, you're the man. We love you. Obviously, last year we did the fucking restaurant Armageddon video.
Famous.
Oh, I became Mr. Doom and Gloom. Doom and Gloom. Why are you spreading all the landlord?
Wait,
why are you spreading this doom and gloom?
Question.
Sure.
How does that help you lease restaurants if you tell everyone opening a restaurant's the worst idea in the world?
You know what, Adam? I've walked away from so much fucking money. Maybe I'm a schmuck, but I do believe in the long game.
Right.
And, I really do believe that if you just be honest and tell people realistically, because listen, I don't want to hear from 6 months after a person opens that they closed.
Sure.
Just because I didn't tell them something, or I'm sick. I'm sick of watching my friends close. I'm sick of watching my clients close. I feel that the more prepared they are, great. A little more, a little less, bro. We can't take it with us anyway, right?
It's funny. Famously, Alfred Spellman, Billy Corbin's partner, right? Business partner, creative partner there, he absolutely discouraged me from opening a bar at all. Full stop. Yeah, they owned a bar briefly
I didn't know that.
on South Beach.
Okay.
And he was like, don't do it. It's a terrible idea. What are you going to do on a rainy summer?
Right.
Turns out there are rainy summers.
Yeah. So I've heard.
And I always say this, there are, well, I say it because people have reminded me that care about me.
Right.
Anytime I think about a new project.
Right.
Okay, there's always going to be a hurricane. There's always going to be rain, floods, Zika, COVID, political strife, whatever, right? There are no steady, things.
Right.
And here especially, you can't count on anything.
Well,
some summers are busy, some summers
Right.
are not. Some summers are rainy, some summers are not. Sometimes tourism is up, sometimes tourism is down.
but summer will always be summer.
And summer will always be summer. And it's brutal. And my mom, I asked her one time, I was like, hey, in the 60s, like, when grandpa had, did they do it seasonally? She's like, yeah, like nothing was open in September, August, September, October. Like they opened in November and closed for like huge, much actually, in some cases, much longer spreads of time, like half the year. It's like they
Like
do
Joe
up,
Stonecrab.
or like they do up north,
Right.
In New England or whatever. It's like some places just have a season. The minute it stops, it's spring, real springtime, and then spring and summer is much shorter, and that's the season.
But that's also why we did the video. I see all these restaurants planning how much numbers they're going to do in the
Right.
summer. And I did the video. And then recently somebody was like, hey, how come you're not posting RIPs? How come you're not warning anybody about this? I was like, listen, I spoke my piece.
Right, you already did.
I
Sure.
did it. I warned
Sure.
everybody. Yeah, I got a lot of shit for it, for being honest, for, developers in South of Fifth saying,
Yeah.
oh, what are you talking about? Miami's the greatest place on earth. Everybody's circle jerking each other. But the bottom line is summer came. I was like, peace, I'll see you guys later. And watch the destruction. I mean, was I talking shit and scaring people, or did you see places closed this summer?
Places closed, and people or paid to stay open. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And was it like a regular summer of places closing, or did you see more than usual?
I feel that the downward pressure was greater than at least over 10 years. I mean, it was a drier summer,
Right.
but it was a slower summer.
Right.
And then it started raining now, and that obviously affects things. Although I do see that people are excited. I feel a little bit of and maybe this plays into the really old saying, that when things get tough, people drink.
Right.
Because I think people are struggling more than usual.
Right.
There's just a lot of bleak shit in the news. It's fact. It does
Right.
not matter.
Right.
Politics.
Right.
I'm just saying it's all bleak. You got AI, political assassinations. I mean, shit's wild right now, right?
Shit's fucking wild
And
right
I'm
now.
sure, if you were doing business in the late 60s and there were political assassinations and they were putting nuclear weapons pointed at Florida, the Cuban Missile Crisis, that looked like the end of the world.
Right.
I'm not saying it's better or worse. It may kind of feels worse, but we'll see, right? But people are freaked out. But the upside, not just on a business side, I think the movement towards people being around each other, trying to reconnect, there are more people talking about the importance of that. Remember, iPhone came out in 2007.
Right.
And so it's almost been 20 years. 20 years is long enough to figure out something isn't so great for you.
Right.
And so I think that there's definitely, and you see younger kids moving away. They want flip phones. They use iPods. These are all good signs.
Right.
Right. Even if it's a small break from that shit and getting back together. Like people are like, oh, AI and music and, there's all this AI slop. I hate that. That's already like a beat up term. But literally yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg's like, oh, we're going to just start generating content with AI that's kind of influenced by your favorite artists. But then it's like, okay, whatever. But I don't think that's going to hurt live music. I don't think that's going to hurt DJs. I think that's going to help. I think people are going to be like, we want to just see a band play. You may not even ask whether the band used AI to help write a lyric. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
that they can play in real life and come and there's an energy or whatever. Those nuanced gray areas are kind of irrelevant right now. I think it's like people getting together, people communing, people trying to turn off the noise and do that. You know, there's still going to be less alcohol sold. I think there's still going to be more.
Do you think that's more of a Gen Z thing?
No, I think people want to spend money on good stuff. You know,
I'm a big Scotch collector.
Right, but I'm saying even the NA portions of a cocktail menu is much larger than they used to be. People still want those done well. They don't just want some sugar water.
Right.
You know,
especially if they're paying $40 a drink.
Well, yes, I don't know that business. That segment of the business is not mine. But yeah, I think just the idea of people getting together, trying to commune, trying to be around other people, there's a chance that continues to grow. But what won't change also is the segmentation of society and people picking their little niches of things.
I know if I'm going to get away, I'm going to Gramps Getaway.
Gramps Getaway.
If you're going to...
If you want to get away, it's in the name.
In the name.
And it is that place because you can just stare out and you don't have to think about what's going on in those buildings or whatever.
So I know originally it was Gramps by the Sea and then became Gramps Getaway.
Gramps by the Sea is on the river.
That's still moving forward?
That is ever so slowly moving forward.
You're my fucking spirit animal. That is amazing.
Look, we just got to think, how are we filling our time while we're here? And I think I lost my way a little bit, but when I first was leaving law and going into the bar, I thought about 5 and 10 and 15 year chunks.
Right.
And that helped me a lot, stay calm and focused and whatever. And I think after COVID, I was okay during COVID. I was like, okay, this is a new challenge and this is going to be a year or 3 or whatever. And we're going to deal with this. And it gave me a lot to do and a lot to recalibrate. After, I was kind of like up against the end of my lease, which then was renewed. But where do I go? What do I do? What's next? And I think I did what I always recommend people don't do, which is what a lot of people get told not to do, is make decisions in under duress.
Right.
You're just not thinking straight. But now I've kind of come back around to like, okay, you have a few things you need to finish and there's a 5 and 10 year plan.
I think you're just glutton for punishment.
No, I'm done. I that I will say, like, if it doesn't make general sense and isn't relatively simple to do, I'd rather walk away.
Please tell me the closing Gramps in January is just a marketing ploy. I really am hoping you're gonna be like, surprise, motherfucker! I was just kidding.
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I would make a lot of dumb jokes and dad jokes and silly wordplay, but no, I mean. That was you can imagine, that's been my entire life.
Right.
I mean, I've had 2 kids, other people have met and gotten married and had kids and gotten divorces in the time that I've been open, right? There's kids that are going to Gramps now that were, if it was 13 years ago, they would have been 6, I don't know, the math, 8 years old.
Yeah. When
I opened, 13 years later, they're 21, right? So it's a lifetime. And, yeah, it wasn't easy. I mentioned it in the announcement video, but I have a great landlord, really great guy. The realtor that got me into the lease, getting me out of the, it's all this stuff. And we had I don't want to, too into it, but we definitely had a way that I could do it. And I was really at the point where I wanted to stay. And then I went away with one of my daughters, with my father, and we went out to Colorado and I just, outdoors, just hanging out. And I was thinking, and I just thought it through again. I'm also known, as to change my mind 1,000 times before I meander towards a very
and that's
good,
okay. Listen,
good decision. I just don't do it quickly. And I just said, I there's too much uncertainty. I think it's like the economy.
Was it everything? Was it just everything rolled into one? The neighborhood, the economy, it's
all rolled into one. Like, look,
sales.
like I said earlier, do I think Wynwood's going to be, popping? Maybe, yeah. I mean, the likelihood is a couple of years from now,
just
different, but good. There are places we all like to go there. It's just how we get from point A to point B, how many spots along the way. TBD on what kind of leases people sign
Right.
at the ground floor to
Right.
make that, if it's all vape stores.
Right. But if they're saying, honestly, if they're paying $150 a foot, like
Obviously, I'm saying I don't know what happens in
Right.
between to make that
Right.
possible. I'm just saying something's going to happen. I don't know what.
Well,
I think to your point, does it become Lincoln Road where every shit's empty forever? Good chance. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to shit on it. There's no reason.
Right.
It's just, I don't, having seen it be so dynamic and evolving so quickly, so often, it would be like, the evidence is more that it will be something,
Right.
and it's just got to get there. But it's so drastically different that it may take longer to catch up.
All right, but then
Right.
here's the question: who fills the void of Gramps? Wynwood.
Oh, you mean the space itself or the
No,
void?
I mean
I don't know. I mean,
the
somebody's
concept,
going to get smart. I mean, some people have reached out to fill a small space here or there. In my head, it's hard to say I'm leaving and
Right.
then be like, oh, but I'm going to stay somewhere else around. I need to see that presented in a way that would,
Yeah, I
that
also
would make
think
sense.
once you're done, you're done.
But I think people would want a place to just grab a drink and catch a band or a DJ that's low key.
I'm more concerned about Pizza Tropical more than anything, man. It's one of my favorite fucking pizza
We are
places,
looking
man.
for space. We
Amazing.
have to spin that off and get that to be its own thing.
Amazing. I mean, it's so, who your partners with on that?
Frank Pinello, who's
super fucking
from Best
talented.
Pizza,
Right.
and he's great. And we did something really, really great. There are some great pizzerias, obviously Lucali, Miami Slice.
Right.
So there's a few doing similar but different things.
Right.
But definitely, people, I'm thankful in the most lists.
Yep.
We make it in there. If it's
Right.
it's hard. Sometimes we have a show and
Right.
there's a line and it's like, okay, we're not set up for everyone to access the pizzeria.
Honestly, one of the most special moments for me
Mm-hmm.
was, which you were a big part of, back in COVID, when we did the Miami Restaurant Employee Relief Fund, which you were such a voice behind that. I was so happy that we raised all that money and we were writing checks out every fucking day. But I don't know if you remember this, but when we hit our first 100,000 that we raised, you had sent me a pie from Pizza Tropical to my house with 100K written out in pepperoni. We have the picture. We're gonna.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was, but you know what? It was just one of those like great fucking moments.
Oh, appreciate
Do
that.
you think that? First of all, have you been to the new Churchill's?
No.
And what's any feedback on it? Like, I was going to check it out this week.
I think it's obviously Churchill's the place.
Right.
And the memories are critical.
Right.
I have a general rule about places that if it's a place that's becomes
Right.
the place also because of the owner and the thing, like Dave Daniels, he's sort of there. I mean, he's around, I hear.
Right.
But when a place that magical closes,
Right.
it can only really just be a museum after or a
Right.
shadow of a thing. But I don't know.
Right.
And I will not. That's just my.
No,
I've
no,
said
no.
that. I've said that
100%.
forever.
I hope they make it killing.
I've been offered closed places.
Right.
And been like, it was what it was, and I'm not gonna fuck with that.
Trying to bring it back. Right.
Right. But I also think that, I did, Paul Castronova asked about that.
Yep.
He said, oh, but where are people, and it was more lamenting
Right.
the loss of Gramps. But I would say, like, look, if there's two places that open in the same week, basically, that do live music, that's a healthy thing.
Right.
And it's actually healthy for whatever I might do next.
Right.
Because the more places that are open, the more bands start, the more people are like, let's go out, let's bounce around. Like, if it's down to just me, it starts to be like, all right, what's,
Right.
I get that, and also Wynwood being, I think, just to bring it back to Wynwood briefly, I think that during and post-COVID, there was a lot of construction at the same time.
Right.
And the Wynwood bid was sort of powerless against the city allowing these people to shut down streets without really illegally.
Right.
and without any wayfinding signs to say, hey, even though the street's down, the businesses are open, other neighborhoods and other, would have taken steps to encourage people to still come visit the neighborhood.
Right.
It just created a very hostile environment. And so everyone basically, I would say in 22 said, this place is a fucking war zone.
Yeah.
And Wynwood sucks. We don't want to go there. It's a headache. I think now there is parking. People still say the parking sucks, but it doesn't. Now, I find parking spots.
Right.
So, it's like there's a narrative that starts and then it takes a while for reality to catch up with the narrative or whatever. But back to Churchill's, I think it's great for bands.
Yep.
And it's great for people that only heard about it, claimed to have been there, never were, and now they get to go do it. And for the people that it was really important to, like I said, I played there before most people were alive talking about it.
Right.
So it's not, this place was very important to me. Dave Daniels and I are friends.
Yep.
But I don't have a particular opinion one way or the other.
All right. So here's a big question. You got to answer me honestly. In honor of Gramps closing, you got to tell me one outrageous fucking story that people don't know.
Okay. This story has maybe been told once publicly, but definitely not online.
Right.
And is pretty fucking crazy.
Hit me.
So this is 2013. We've been open for a few months. And Shirley's in the back. The theater wasn't Shirley's at the time. We had a little stage and some arcade games and a little bar. My grandfather's bar, actually, from his house.
Amazing.
And the arcade games were just on free play because I didn't want to fuck with the quarters. And I was like, this is a whole thing and you got to get a permit. And I was like, just let people play the games, right? Like, it's a cool amenity. And at the time, there weren't like arcade bars around and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sitting in the front of Gramps and doing paperwork, receiving, because at the time it was just like me sitting there, like waiting for the liquor delivery guy. And a cop walks in, SWAT kind of vibes, like more tactical gear or whatever. And I'm like, hey, and he's like, I was like, can I help you? He's like, you have games here? I was like, yeah, we got arcade games. What's up? He's like, oh, okay, radio, something, whatever. I'm like, can I help you? He walks over to the side towards the entrances. At the time where the kitchen is, you used to be able to walk. You basically used to walk in a circle around Gramps into the back room. And so he's over there, and I'm like, well, he goes back, he looks over, he comes over, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, he's like writing a ticket or something.
Right.
And I'm like, what is that? He's like, it's just a notice. I was like, are you arresting me? Like a notice to appear? Because a notice to appear is a misdemeanor.
Right.
It's like an arrest, but they don't cuff you, but you're basically arrested.
This is the same guy if you asked if you had games.
Right. Same guy. Right. So I'm like, okay, hey, slow your roll here. What are we talking about?
Right.
I was like, why are you here? Like, why me? Like, what's wrong? He's like, you're on a list.
Fucking list.
I'm a list. I go, isn't that like, I was like, I made an assumption. Is that you're Cuban, right?
Right.
It's like, yeah. I was like, doesn't this sound kind of kind of not where you want to live? Or I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't mean or anything. It was just very like I'm on a list.
Right.
So he shows me the list, and I see that this list is very printed out, very organized, and it's all, Terry's Cafe Convenience Mart 2, very like these very, just convenience store, like, and all out west.
Right.
But then at the bottom of the list, there's like a handwritten Gramps. Like, so I was added.
Right.
By somebody.
Did you ever figure out who?
I was added.
Got it.
And I'm like, all right, this is definitely, but now I'm motivated because I understand that something is afoot, not cool, not kosher, definitely fucked up.
Right.
Right. So other SWAT guys start walking in. And then the
tactical gear and everything?
Tactical gear, the full thing.
Jeez.
Chief of police at the time saunters in. Like, and I'm like, Chief, I don't understand. Like, and I think I had just met him at some function or something. I don't remember why. Well, hey, nice to see you. I didn't know, whatever. And I'm like, I think you're making a mistake here, right? Okay. Have the police heard that one before? Sure. But I'm like my guy, right. This is right. You know, these are arcade games. I know what they are, you know, whatever.
But at this point, have they told you
nothing? Nothing. Nothing. Oh, we'll see. Then I hear like commotion outside. They walk to the back room and it's dark back there.
Right.
They walk back there. I call my dad.
Right.
Who, former judge, lawyer, current, or, you know, went into private practice, retired, I think at the time, or maybe was, I don't even remember. Right. And I'm like, hey, I need a witness. Like, I wasn't like, it wasn't like a help me. It was like somebody's got to fucking see this. Are you close by?
Right.
He's like, I just happen to be on 26th at my grandfather's office with your uncle. We'll come over. So they start on their way over. They're very close by in Edgewater. I peek outside. A trailer pulls up with a bunch of games. They call them maquinitas. These are gambling machines. These are like Cherry Master. They're basically like digital slot machines, right? And they're in all the little stores. And there was this, whatever. It's a
trailer pulled up like
with all of these machines in front of my place. I'm like, well,
like, was it like you ordered them or they were trying to like
helicopters?
Get the fuck out
around my place.
Right.
They're staging a photo op.
Who, the cops?
The cops.
Okay.
So I go back into the back room. Now it's like weird. There's these guys in a semicircle. The video games are on this wall. The guys are in a semicircle, tactical gear, all this shit. I'm like, what the fuck? And it's dark and it's weird. And I think maybe we had a black light. So you just imagine, there's just like, what's happening? My dad and uncle come in the back door of that room, behind these guys quietly. They don't see him. And so then a guy walks in. It looks like the Scarecrow from Batman Begins.
Right.
He's got like a weird face mask and like a giant hat on and an oversized suit from the thrift store that still had a tag on it. Like they went around the corner to Salvation because at the time I think Salvation Army or just still there or Faith Farm or whatever. And he walks in, I guess it's to hide his identity because he's like undercover, but it's like weird and it's creepy as fuck. Okay. And there's these two guys that look like, you know, Agent Dale Cooper or whatever from Twin Peaks. Like they're in these like weird suits. They look like they're like state guys or something, from the state. No ID or anything like that. So like weird Scarecrow guy saunters in and they're like, well, we're going to check the machines. I'm like, yeah, they're vintage arcade. These are like, you know, I think it was like Asteroids or no, Space Duel. There was like a multicade, maybe, no, not even at the time. There was a Space Duel, a RoboCop.
Oh, I used to love that game.
Well, very appropriate here.
Right.
RoboCop.
Yep.
And just whatever, vintage arcade games. And
you guys used to have Area 51. Was Area 51 there? Or?
Yes. Still have that one. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Probably had The Simpsons at the time, which now, fuck, I got it vintage. For $400. Now it's like worth $5,000. Anyway, so the Scarecrow guy walks over and he has to turn on the machine. So he's got to like get down on the floor because it's dark and you know the power is usually down at the bottom, right? So I'm like, do you mind if I help him? So I'm like down on the floor and I'm like, bro. He's like, yeah. I'm like, you know these games, right? He's like, yeah, they're like vintage. Like we're like whispering while the cops are like up here. And I'm like, you know, these are all like vintage arcade games, right? He's like, yeah, I mean, right? All these are. I was like, yeah, just check them out. So he flips a few on and he looks at them. He walks over, like Scarecrow walks over to Agent Cooper and the fucking chief and all their smug ass faces.
Right.
And they slowly, after he turned a couple of these on, they start disappearing like Homer Simpson.
Into the bushes.
Right. Gone. And I'm basically like, all right. And I'm trying to follow one of them because remember, the guy started filling out
Right.
the notice to appear, which is an arrest.
Yeah. Was your dad and uncle in here by the time?
They saw the whole thing go down. But nobody would talk to me after the guy realized, they're just, So I go to the guy, the original cop. I'm like, what's going to happen with this? Because like, I've always heard like, you can't just tear up the arrest. They fucking basically false arrested by filling it out. And basically, I mean, was I free to leave? I mean, I don't think so. Right.
And this is only a few months after you opened the business.
A few months after I opened. And they go, no, basically like this never happened. And it was like, the paper was gone. No, that was it. Literally, that was the end of that. So I go outside. Well, I'm obviously, like,
you're worked up.
I'm worked up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? And it was so stupid. Because when you get angry because it's dumb.
Of
like,
course.
you're like, this isn't a real thing. I didn't fuck anything up.
Right.
Like, so there was nothing.
And the more you think about it, the angrier you get, obviously.
The angrier I get.
Right.
So I go outside. I look, the helicopters are still going.
They're still going.
The truck is still there. And I pull up online live news and see my place on the thing with the helicopter. Oh, they're doing a raid.
I gotta get a copy of that.
Whatever. I'm like, So I pick up the phone.
Yep.
I call the police department and I was like, I need to speak to the chief or whoever's there in charge. It's an emergency. And I'm just like, probably at that point screaming like, there's fucking helicopters, whatever. So I get, I think, an assistant chief on, and I'm like, all due respect, I don't give a fuck who you are, what's happening. You guys now they've left. You falsely arrested me. You guys have games outside of my place on a trailer that aren't mine. You have fucking helicopters. You're doing this photo op. You guys need, and they're saying, I'm watching. I said, I'm like watching online right now, them saying that this is my place and they're busting my place, which is not true because they have left and none of this is real.
Right.
Right. And for some reason they came to my place as the last stop on their way back to the fucking police department because, everything they came from was out west. And they're just like passing by to do their photo op there, Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get into it. Of course, there was no immediate online live retraction, but first time I ever saw this in the New Times or the Herald, I don't remember. Somebody wrote an article, and at this time, it wasn't like I was in the scene and when I see the scene, I mean with the city, like it wasn't like I knew who even my fucking commissioner was. Like I just was opening a bar. I'd just come back from working as a lawyer down in Key West, whatever. So, but the New Times wrote an article. And the police department was like, yeah, we made a mistake or oops, whatever. I've never seen them kind of like apologize or admit that they had fucked something up badly. And that also, you can imagine how that has informed every single thing that's happened to me, the way it's affected my point of view on owning a small business, on being in Miami, on doing business in Miami, the dishonesty, and honesty of some people, right? Like there's integrity and a lack of integrity. There's people that, there's just so many things that affects. And no one should go through that. And unfortunately, we see that continue to happen and the demonization of small business owners. And it's counterproductive for everybody.
Right.
I mean, imagine how in elections where people don't vote that much, how much more if people wanted to feel that they were elected with a mandate, how many thousands of people the food and beverage industry could put behind a candidate if people were really actually doing something for small businesses. And I say food and beverage because it's really like canary in the coal mine because it has the most sort of hoops to jump through. A retail shop is a little easier, and I'm not even diminishing it because it's all hard. But, it really affected me, and it got me more involved though. And I did what I think you have to do. Yeah, I feel like you might, and now we see what happens. And this is a cautionary tale for Miami. Vegas, obviously, in total disarray, right? And they're big trouble.
Yes.
The thing is, in Vegas, you go purposefully to party and leave no trace and get the fuck out.
Right.
Miami has the option of drawing people in and charming people, and you move here to be charmed and then continue to look for the charm chase the dragon,
Right.
as it were, right?
Agree.
And I think we still have an option. We still have. There are, it's like the closing window of time,
Right.
where we could still do something for transit. We still could do something for resiliency. We still could do something in terms of making it easier to open businesses and keep people in the middle class from having to leave, who sometimes also have a small business and moonlight and do a job,
Right.
And so we have that window. And so I think that,
What advice do you have for those type of people who are coming here and want to open a bar, restaurant, nightclub? What's one thing that they can take away from you?
Well, I think number one is, your business plan needs to include drastic weather, calamitous weather. You just have to deal with that and be real. Be real that if you're coming from a place that has high density, you may have the for real winning concept, but you do not have the density of residents living above and around you. A little bit downtown, but even downtown is not the easiest thing in the world, right? And if the rents get too high and you only have so many seats, no matter how many people there are, it still has to be intense and walkable and positive, and there have to be experiences that make people love, because right now our culture in Miami, unlike New York, has you go into your lobby, get into your Uber, go to your restaurant, come back, go back up to the lobby. And if we don't get people walking around these places where they're putting up the buildings, this is the Wynwood question.
Right.
Will it feel great walking around, or is it like, all right, let me just go in here and I'm going to zip over here and zip back over here and not stop anywhere along the way?
Right.
Because you're not giving me a reason to. So going back to answer the question, make sure you know your traffic counts, your butts in seats and whatever. It's like Upper East Side. I hear people say, oh, it's tough. Oh, this place doesn't work. This place, bullshit, right? If Caracas has a
100%.
line out the door,
If El Bagel has a line out the door,
out
Luna
the door,
Pasta,
and some people don't,
Right.
it's the operation. It's
Right.
not that there aren't people, right? And do you have a thing that people want at the price point people want, right? So I think those are the questions you have to ask yourself, and beware the ego getting in the way. There's obviously, we know this, there are people that just write checks for whatever reason.
Right.
They just have to open a we're not talking about those people.
Right.
Because they don't care what money they're setting on fire. They're just going to sign a lease, take a place. If it fails, if it makes it, whatever. We don't know.
Correct.
We don't know the backstory there. But for everyone earnestly trying to open a place, consider the weather, consider the summer. What's your game plan? How are you going to take care? If you want to build a staff that people come to know and love, they're going to have less hours. It's like, how are we preparing people for that? It's tough. It's becoming more important that I kind of want to know how people are living, how they're doing. I don't want to get, it's a weird thing, but are people like, I want to ask someone working for me, like, how far do you have to drive?
Right.
Is it tough for you to, and what can I do to help? I don't know. That's the hard part. I think rents are coming down, and I think there still are markets where people, if they are working in a steadily busy enough restaurant, even if it's down, that the down is attenuated. It's not here, it's here in the off season, that you can cover rent. But if you add in the Ubers and insurance, these types of things, it's very difficult. So, I think also, what kind of employees do you want? How do you want to work with them? How do you, because some people don't care if they hire 1 year, fire the next season, but I don't think that works.
Right.
I don't think that those places do well.
In your opinion, you just brought up a great point, the season. Now when people are like, what is the season in Miami? Everybody will have a different answer. My answer is different from other brokers, from other landlords, maybe even from you. In my opinion, the day after F1 to Black Friday is recently been the season for me.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's season. There are opportunities.
Right.
I think depending on where your place is, summer isn't the worst.
Right.
June and July and parts of August are not terrible if you have the game plan.
Right. Which is what, like the local business?
I think it's local business. I think it's deals.
Good delivery zone.
Yeah, like I think it's everything. I think it's just bust your ass, right? Like just keep the doors open, right? Everybody feels it. Oh, I have an awning. Who gives a fuck? If nobody wants to drive through a flood to get to your awning restaurant, it doesn't matter if you have an awning.
Where it's still 150 degrees outside.
And it's, yeah, also. But I think, having a game plan, being realistic, not stressing your people out that work with you. This has not worked for me in the past, but money management. I like, okay, realistically, we have a payroll processor. We see the checks, right? We know people are making money.
Right.
For most of the time that I have had a bar open, other people working for me have made more than me.
Right.
Most of the time that I have worked. That's also because of the type of place I run and the prices, whatever. That's my choice, not a complaint. But I'm just saying, I know that they are earning something. But I also know that those earnings can go down if they're tipped or whatever.
Sure.
It's like, I have a hard enough time putting away anything. I've had a lot of downs. It's not easy to save money.
Right.
And that's the only thing is like, I would hope that people support each other in trying to conserve cash when things are good so that, you can skate by when things slow down.
Right.
Especially September and October.
Right.
Because people forget. Summer is not here. Is June to August. It's kind of rains a little bit. You go out on the boat. People are out. They're drinking. They're barbecuing. There's a party. We're here. We're alone.
Yep.
The tourists are gone.
You can get reservations on open table.
Yeah. Like there's a reason to go out. But September and October, we forget that's hurricane season. That's peak hurricane season because it's rainy and it's hot and the weather's brewing and it's churning. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Right.
And you forget because you're like, oh, well, when everyone's back to school, no, they're back to school. They're focused on getting in the rhythm for the holidays, for the season. So
I think that's really important for people to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I let you go, thank you so much for coming on the show, but I got to ask you one more question. This is the just a tip question. So every guest answers a different question.
You had years and years to come up with a name.
You know what? I've been wanting to use that name for so long, and
it's okay. It's okay.
I argued with everybody. People are like, no, you cannot use that as a name.
I'm a dad. I like fart jokes,
we
and poop
like
jokes, or whatever.
Dad jokes.
It's fine. It's fine.
So every guest, I ask a question of their top three.
Yeah.
We switch it up so nobody ever gets the same exact question.
Sure.
Always about food, always about drinks. My question for you, being a dad, since you brought up being a dad, what are your top 3 favorite restaurants to go with your kids in Miami?
We don't go a lot because a lot of times when we go to Getaway because it's
the greatest location on the planet.
The greatest spot. No,
but if you had to.
No, but if I had to, we like to order. We like to sit together, and so we like Doggies because it's literally right around the corner.
Doggy, which one? Wynwood,
72nd.
Yep.
Yeah. It's affordable because when you're buying out, ordering, you add on the Uber and the driver and the thing. It's like,
what do you like there?
We just get the little chicken thing with the rice and the beans.
Right.
The plant. It's just
easy, right?
Easy.
Right.
I choose that over pollo because it's just a little more.
So much pollo you can have and not as much meat on the bone.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have for number 2?
We love Luna pasta.
Love Luna pasta.
It's just good, and we order, we go there. It's easy.
Always consistent.
Always consistent. They always cook. My younger daughter loves steak. They always cook it exactly the way we want it. We don't have to ask. We just say, cook it this way. It's done, Yeah. And the pasta's great. And
part of the reason we put them there was because we liked it so much.
That was you.
That was me.
Look at
pretty good broker. I heard they had a pretty good broker on the time.
Look at that. Yeah, we like that. What else do we like? Blue collar.
Love Danny.
Love the griot.
What are some of your favorite things at Blue Collar?
Griot.
Yep.
It's just great there. I mean, it's a sleeper. I don't know how many people know, but the griot is great.
With me and Blue Collar, every time I go there, it's I don't make any plans afterwards. It's like that's it.
Yeah, it's a hearty portions.
And the kids like it.
Yeah.
What else?
And then Double Luck.
Love Double Luck.
Great.
What are some of your favorite things at Double Luck?
They have a fried I think it's like fried eggplant. It's really good with the sauce on it. It's great.
I'm a fan of the
They
ribs
have
there.
a schnitzel on the menu, which is awesome. Which is great little homage to the old
Schnitzel House?
the new Schnitzel House, which is where the old Schnitzel House was, which was my brief stint as a restaurateur on the Upper East Side.
Which, another dad joke, it actually should have been called putting on the schnitz, right?
Putting on the schnitz. That was it was going to be a schnitzel with a top hat, but then I realized, when you draw a schnitzel, which is just a flattened piece of meat, it kind of just looked like a pancake or something.
Right.
So it ended up looking like the Peanut Man in the top hat. So we couldn't do the putting on the schnitz. But yeah, the new Schnitzel House was fun and funny, and my partner Nick Katz and Richie Dispensieri, who was the guy that opened the Abbey originally. Yep. That was a great one. But anyway, so like Upper East Side, it's there. We just keep it local by the neighborhood, which I think is more and more true for everybody.
It's definitely one of my favorite. If you're an operator, I think that's me. That's one of my favorite neighborhoods.
And I actually have a friend who's opening in the Vagabond space.
Oh shit, guys! News alert! News alert!
Yeah.
What do we got?
So the guys from the Commodore, which is a great, almost like a sister bar for us, in Brooklyn, they've been there for a long time,
right?
15, 16 years, which, when you get into that zone, it's like clearly you have a very steady formula that works. No hype.
Right.
No hype. We're talking, fried chicken sandwich, Caesar salad,
yes,
frozen drinks, like just a very Gramps and Commodore, truly.
Right.
Like if you go to both bars, like, oh, and we didn't know each other. I didn't know of his place when I opened.
Right.
We were introduced after I opened. Someone was like, you got to go meet my friend Chris. So I went to go meet.
And they're opening it up as a Commodore.
I don't think it's going to be the Commodore, but in spirit,
right,
it will be the Commodore.
Amazing. I'm so excited for that.
And definitely, they are, integrating and discussing and reaching out and wanting to make sure that, this is going to be a Miami thing. This is a Miami
concept.
And this is not, they don't just pass through for a weekend.
Right.
Chris is down here.
They do it right.
No, and I'm saying, they're here all the time.
Right.
They spend much of their time
right
here. So it's one of the few sort of, out of town, because it's not a chain.
Right.
It's not, they're not looking to open 40 places. Right. They're just like, okay, it's time. We like practically live here, and this fits. If you like we talked about,
yep.
You go down the street, and I don't care. I mean, obviously, I don't care how many times a space turns over. It's, again, about what are you doing
right.
to make it fit.
To make me want to come.
To make me want to come.
Right.
A lot of times too, if it's a second thought for someone
yep.
to open a second, third play, whatever, like that can also affect it, because but yeah. Anyway, I think that when you drive down the boulevard, there are certain things missing.
Right.
There continues to be. I really wanted to open a bar on Biscayne Boulevard. You still cannot drive
right
from 36th Street, north to Flanagan's,
right.
basically. Where do you just pull over and get a drink and hang out? I think, Double Luck is going to be full liquor very soon. So obviously that'll now, but just like we talked about, the more the merrier. You'll have Double Luck, you'll have these guys, and you have a nice, it's a weekend mix. Night out or a Tuesday night. You stop here, go there, get a burger, have a nightcap, whatever. So, but with the kids, we like to keep it right around the neighborhood.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, my brother. Listen, I'm so blessed, man. Thank you so much for dropping some serious fucking knowledge today.
Thank you. Sorry, I just we could go much deeper in the nerdy.
I could do this for another 6 hours.
The nerdy zoning stuff, but I would.
But you know what? We might, if it's okay with you, I'd love to have you on again. And really, I do want to go through the nerdy stuff, because people watch our videos and they're like, well, I made this mistake. What did I do wrong? Mm-hmm. Shit, next time I think we'll take questions, right?
Yeah.
We'll get some questions done.
Yeah, we should do that, or we should just, to a seminar like everybody else.
I fucking love it. I don't like
I'm
money, bro.
just kidding.
I don't like money. I
10x
like to,
it, brother. 10x.
I like to walk away with nothing.
Can you
usually.
imagine? No, God, terrible.
My brother, thank you so much.
No, absolutely.
Dude, I'll see you at Gramps Getaway.
Yeah, come by and let's do something to wind up Gramps and Wynwood.
And let's
together.
find a home for a pizza tropical.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Take care.
Thanks.